Good afternoon. Here we are, week 2 of virtual learning, and I wanted to share out some instructions on what we're going to be doing in BFM 1 this week. We wanted to do a review of the bank statements information, specifically how to complete the check register and how to go about completing the reconciliation. So there are 3 documents that you primarily need to concern yourself with. The first one is the sample bank statement. That's Student Resource 6.4. Go through and familiarize yourself with the bank statement first because you're going to need this bank statement for your reconciliation, which is the second assignment. So there's some information here that I want you to read so that you kind of remember what we went over in class. And then let's really quickly take a look at the sample bank statement. So the sections we are going to be concerned with are the statement period. There's a finite opening and a finite closing. So you want to make sure that when you're looking at transactions, they fall within this statement period. Second, you've got an activity summary. Okay, with a prior balance, you have a sum of deposits and interest, which means additions to the account, withdrawals, which means subtractions from the account, and the new balance on the bank statement. Now, this is critical when you're doing the reconciliation because you're going to need this balance and the balance on the check register to do the reconciliation properly. Okay, and then there's detail. So any money going into the account that increases the balance is shown in this section. Okay. Second, any withdrawals, meaning checks, in this case, are detailed in this section by check number and date. That becomes critical. Finally, any withdrawals made at an ATM are included in this section, as well as debit card purchases. So there's a lot of activity detail on this statement, but the sum of withdrawals is listed here, and the sum of deposits is listed here. So at a glance, this is how you navigate through the bank statement. Familiarize yourself with this first before you do anything else. The second thing that we want you to look at is the check register. This is something we did in class, and it took us, I think, about 20 to 30 minutes to get through from start to finish. You guys are brilliant young people, and I showed this to you once and you picked it up like that. But it's been a while, so let's review. We have some sample questions here, and I want you to go through and make sure that you've done this properly. So in this column here, the check number column, this is where you enter your check number, you enter the code for debit card or service charge or ATM transaction or point of sale transaction if you're using iPay or Google Pay or one of those really nifty technologies we have access to. Second thing is the date. Okay, you enter the date, that's self-explanatory, but both the check number, the transaction code, and the date have to be on the check register. It's critical to record this so you can accurately do your reconciliation. Because remember, the dates on the bank statement are finite, and you've got to make sure that you're aligning your dates with the check register dates. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do the reconciliation. Finally, transaction description. So, your starting balance here is $357.60 for this. Under the transaction description, you are writing the pay to the order of on the check. You're not writing the memo. So in the transaction description, you record to whom you wrote the check rather than what you bought. If you're writing down what you bought here, you're not doing it right. You have to have the pay to the order match what's in your transaction description, or otherwise you're going to be lost. This skinny little column is used for the reconciliation. So when you get your bank statement, you compare it to your check register, and if the transaction shows on both the check register and the bank statement, you put a check mark in the skinny column and you're done with it. You're happy, you don't need to worry about it. When you get done though, if you do not have a check mark next to it, it means it does not appear on your bank statement, and you need to include that in the reconciliation process. Okay, here's where you record the amount of the withdrawal or the deposit. So withdrawals go on the left side, deposits go on the right. That way you can see at a glance whether it's money coming out or money coming in. And you are concerned with whether it's a plus or a minus operation here in the balance. So 357 minus the amount of the check equals the new balance, or 357 plus the amount of the deposit equals the new balance. Pretty straightforward. I think you guys can handle this one. This document here, this is the reconciliation document, and we have a case here that we're going to be using. Read through it in detail, because your first step here is to write the check, and you have to have the check written down and recorded properly in order to do this right. So make sure you're going through and you're reading this in detail before you begin the reconciliation process. Okay? So let's get to the check register. The check register is provided here, and the Student Resource 6.4, which was the sample bank statement we looked at, are what you're going to need to do the reconciliation. So the check register here is completed just like our practice set with all the same information, but this balance here is what you're concerned with. Okay? This includes all the changes due to withdrawal transactions here, withdrawals, as well as all transactions due to deposits to the accounts. This is the ending balance after it's all wrapped up, neat in a bow. So, what we are going to need to do when we get started is first go through, mark off everything that appears on both here. So if it appears here in our transaction description and it appears on our bank statement over here, then you put a nice check mark next to it on the reconciliation form. Okay? Where are we? Okay. Okay, back to the right document. All right, so you record anything that's outstanding, meaning that it does not appear on both here. In this box, what we're going to be using is any checks or withdrawals that do not appear on both. We're going to itemize them with the date, the type of transaction here, meaning check number or debit card or ATM transaction in this column, and then the dollar amount here. And at the bottom, we're going to total all of the outstanding withdrawals of all types. Okay, then we move to the next section, deposits. This will be deposit with the description deposit and the date, and the amount of the individual deposit, again, totaled here. All right. Then, once we get to the real meat of the reconciliation, you're going to enter the ending balance on the bank statement right here where it says ending balance. Enter it right there because you're going to need that. The next step is that you enter the total of the outstanding deposits, which means you go back here and enter the total you derive in this box, total. And then you run the math. It says add. So the instructions are right here. It's detailed step by step. So this plus the total of outstanding deposits equals this here in the subtotal. You're halfway done. All right, this field, you go back to your box where you have your outstanding withdrawals. Where are we? Oh, there we go. And we enter the total from this box right here. Okay, enter it, and then we subtract this number from this number to get this new number. Okay, this is other. If we have any other fees that we may need to add in or subtract out or any other miscellaneous items, we enter them here. Balance. This is where we come up with our ending balance. Now, I'm gonna tell you the answer right now. The ending balance here should be the same ending balance that we have on our check register, meaning that if you do not get $277.30 in this field right here, you haven't done it right. So you need to go back and check it. That's what we're doing this week, guys. So if you have any questions about this, my office hours are 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. daily. Contact me via reminder, via email. And if you need a phone call, my phone information is available on Schoology. I prefer you have a parent with you when you call. Otherwise, use Remind or email, and I'll get back to you promptly. If those hours don't work for you or your folks, send me an email. And I'm happy to schedule time during the evening or during the weekend. I'm here for you, and we're making this work as much as possible. So this is what is due this week by Friday, the 1st of May. And go through and do a good job on this. But I also want you to do a good job on the discussion board. And I really want to point you to using your smartphone and using the virtual technology to post your response to the discussion board. I also really want to point you toward collaboration on the discussion board, because we're going to kind of scale this up a little bit where you're doing some virtual collaboration using discussion board, and I want you to get some practice doing this. So that's what we have, guys. And again, if you have questions, get in touch. All right. Have a good week.